What's up, everybody? This is MX Fan Ben. Just want to make a quick video about the concept of cheating during games. So this came up on Pirates CSG podcast number 51 with Get 'em Powder, recorded about 2 years ago in 2020. And the concept is kind of bizarre. And when I've mentioned it to a few people this year, when I've been playing them, the reactions are kind of go from like disgust to hilarity. Kind of on the more towards the laughing side, I guess you could say. It's not something I would ever do, of course, but I think what's interesting to me is how he did it with his 3-player play group. Is they basically said cheating is legal as long as you don't get caught. But then if you get caught, you forfeit the game automatically, like you're just out. And then, but that's presumably that wouldn't be an end game for the edition, because then you could purposely get caught cheating if you're in the lead in gold and then win. But so you'd just be like nullified and just out of the game, forfeit immediately. So, and of course, if it was a 2-player game, you just lose immediately. So I think this is an interesting like play style if all players actually agree to it, like before the game, or like, way before the meetup even happens or whatever, and like preferably before fleets are made, maybe things like that. Probably, maybe not, I guess, in terms of fleets being made, because there's certain abilities or whatever that would be easier to abuse in various like ways to cheat or whatever. So part of the reason I think this concept is interesting is because the game is called Pirates. It's a game about basically plunder, stealing, murder, war at sea, death, sinking ships, stealing people's valuables and leaving them for dead, being marooned, people getting captured, people getting like just kidnapped and being like basically brainwashed by the curse to be used against their former friends and comrades against their will. If you really dig into it, the game is like, the themes of the game are about as brutal as it get. And even though pirates have been romanticized in movies and in lore over the history, people, of course, you go on like modern YouTube videos of like people talking about Somali pirates and everybody's like against them. It's like, well, yeah, maybe you shouldn't like idolize the pirates of the past, right? But it's interesting how culture has shifted, and how like people kind of romanticize like the past when it was just disgusting and brutal back then too. Especially if you look at people like Edward Lowe and some of the other nastiest pirates of all time. So anyway, I kind of wanted to make this video just to kind of bring a little bit more attention to it and kind of ask your thoughts. The question of the day is, if it was talked about well before the game started and all players agreed to like a system where like if you get caught, you forfeit and whatnot, and everybody knows that it's kind of out there as a thing, would you consider like trying a game where like cheating, so to speak, is allowed? And if you don't know what I mean, or it sounds impossible to do, Get 'em Powder. Yeah, I highly recommend listening to the podcast. I think the 51st podcast episode is the funniest one, probably. There's been a decent amount of funny moments, but I think like from start to finish, it's not funny the whole time, but it's probably the funniest podcast out of the 53 so far. And it's the cheating discussion is one of the reasons why. And I've re-listened to it recently to refresh my memory. We didn't talk about the cheating aspect as much as I thought. But he mentioned stuff like, if you have like the +2 gold ability or +1 gold or whatever, and then you get back to your home island, you put maybe normally how you do it is the +1 or +2, you put it face down on your home island from outside your collection order. So maybe you get like a 3 or like a 6 or something, and then it's just face down, and then nobody's the wiser by the time the game ends. You just it's just another 3 that, you got from a wild island or whatever. So stuff like that. And then another thing he mentioned is like, that I forgot until I listened to the podcast again, was like, you get up from the table to go to the bathroom and you kind of bump it when you get up. And then you have to like reposition your ships, or you have to like, it forces you to like redo a move action or something that you didn't really like in the first place. So anyway, and there's lots of other kind of weird, nefarious ways to do it. So I'm sure some people will be like completely against this, and I'm totally, don't get me wrong, I'm totally against doing it when like people aren't expecting it, or if it's not agreed to beforehand, which of course is like kind of like not cheating as much. Like if you agree that it's like legal, it's not really cheating, right? But there's different ways to go about doing it. So I definitely don't recommend starting to try any of these weird tactics just randomly, because people will probably not play with you ever again, for good reason, including me probably. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to gauge the community's idea on this. I think probably a lot of people would be against it and stuff, but it kind of goes along with some of the other kind of I don't know what the word is, kind of like game ideas that might kind of rustle people's feathers a little bit, or kind of get people a little bit riled up. Like playing for keeps is another interesting one. Like whoever wins, they just keep the gold they get at the end. So they would have the most gold in their collection coming home after a game or whatever. Or more intense is you capture another person's ship and you end the game with it in your fleet. You just keep the ship, stuff like that, which I think is actually a decent idea for sealed pack games specifically, which I mentioned recently on the Discord. So I think for sealed pack games, the playing for keeps makes more sense than in regular games. So anyway, so I just want to hear your thoughts on it, whether you're for or against cheating in like a kind of like a controlled environment, or using it maybe like as like almost like an experiment. So anyway, I'd be willing to like play around with it, but obviously not, it's hard to accept it if it showed up randomly in a game where it's not supposed to happen, because then it's just like the game is just like kind of a shoe-in at that point. It's just played under an asterisk or a protest the rest of the time, or it's just not like, you might as well just restart or whatever. So, because it messes with things way too much, and it's obviously way too easy to just win. So anyway, just interested in your thoughts. So yeah, question of the day: would you be willing to try this, especially in like a controlled environment? And what are your general thoughts on it? So anyway, do you think it could? I guess as a follow up question too, do you think it could enhance the piratey nature of the game and kind of get people to be more thematic about it, rather than like rules blurring and like being hyper competitive about everything, like measurements and like being exact about stuff? Maybe introduce a little more nefarious fun and like casual chaos into the realm of like the thematic nature of the game, being a little bit more like old school Pirates, maybe a little sloppier, but also just kind of a little more chaotic evil, I guess you could say. So anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.